Hey, hello, friend. It's Melvin Pillay. So we all have been there, haven't we? When we faced the mountain of defeat. Well, today I want to talk about how you can scale the mountain of defeat into victory. Working with people from all backgrounds, whether it be highly successful people or somebody just starting out in life, I found that we have all faced challenges in our lives, and everybody struggles with something. So whether it is somebody here in the first world America or somebody out in rural Africa, the circumstances may be different, but my friend, the tears are the same. I've seen people here in the boardrooms of America, highly successful people, weep. And I've met people on the mission field in the middle of Africa, mothers weeping. The tears are the same, although the circumstances are so different. Today I want to talk about how we can scale this mountain and how we can be victorious, whether you're in America or Africa or India or any part of this world. We're going to dig deep today and discover the three demons, inner demons of defeat, and how we are going to overpower them. So what are these inner demons? They are three very specific fears that we all face. Psychologists tell us that a baby is born with two fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of being dropped. But the average adult is plagued by 2,000 different kind of fears. Now, of course, we're not going to go into all the fears today. I'm going to go on to talk about three root fears. So much of our problems and struggles and defeats come from these three specific fears. I call them the three inner demons. So let's identify and then slay them one by one. Fear number one, the thing that stops so many people right in their tracks, is the fear of failure. So fear number one is the fear of failure. So many people in life fail even before they try. How many times have you said to yourself, well, if I try that, I'm going to fail. And then what do? You just do not do it. So many times in our lives, we have already defeated ourselves even before attempting something. But what would you do if you realized that, statistically speaking, research has shown that every millionaire who succeeded financially on average failed 17 times in 17 different business ventures? Failure, my friend, is not the end of your life. As a matter of fact, you cannot accomplish anything in life without first failing. I love John Maxwell's, the title of one of his books, which is called Failing Forward. See, we have got to slay the inner demon of the fear of failure. Somehow it's been drilled into our hearts, into our psyche, into who we are, that failure is a bad thing. I remember growing up within my culture, of course, I've seen friends, I've known of people when we were in school back then, who'd come to the end of the year and they failed school. I know of some friends who had taken their lives, committed suicide because they were so afraid that they failed. How would they face their parents? How would they face the world, the community, because they failed in school? See, failure became such a tragedy. Fear gripped their hearts because of failure, because they were lied to all their lives. They were taught that failure was bad, that failure was evil, that failure meant that you were unworthy, you were not good, that you were not intelligent, not brilliant or these sort of things. My friend, I want to expose that lie today. Here's the truth. Everybody fails. Everybody fails. Look at any highly successful person and you will see that their lives of success happened by many footsteps of failure. Embrace failure. The quickest way to embrace failure is to understand that we should not take ourselves too seriously. I remember when I started off as back in ministry training, I remember one of the gentlemen who came to teach us, he said to us, now students, I want to tell you something about life. As you go and speak to a group of people, understand this. 10% of the people will love you. 10% of the people will hate you. 80% of the people couldn't care less who you are. Okay? So he said something that stuck with me. He said, don't take yourself too seriously. Truly, friends, do not take yourself too seriously. Learn how to laugh at your failures. Learn how to laugh at your crazy mannerisms. We've got to allow humor to overpower the so-called failures in our lives. I don't truly believe that people fail. I think we learn and I think we grow. I think all these failures becomes part of our character. When I look over my life, I think about the first time I stepped out into public speaking and I told a joke and it fell flat. Nobody laughed. I was embarrassed. And I remember that inner voice inside of me saying, see, you are a failure. You can't do public speaking. Who do you think you are? Well, for a split second, I listened to that voice and then, thank God, I rejected that voice. I said, no, I will not listen to you. That joke failed. I am not a failure. Maybe this first speech I'd given was a failure, but I am not a failure. When I look back at over my life right now, all these many little failures, they were indeed the stepping stones for me to be where I am right now. Speaking, teaching, and training, and all these wonderful things that the Lord has given to me. So, demon number one, slay the demon of the fear of failure. Number two is the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection is a terrible thing. In sales, I've taught many people. I know I've learned when I started off in sales, by the way. I remember going out door knocking on the street, selling my house burglar alarms. I'll stand at the end of the street and I'd look down the road and I'd say, that house, they're not going to buy. They've got a brand new car. Oh, that house, they've got an old car. They're not going to buy. I'd stand at the street, the entrance of the street, and I'll make excuses. But the bottom line was I was so afraid of knocking on the doors. I was afraid that they were going to reject me. That's the fear of rejection that had gripped my heart. And so the fear of rejection is the second inner demon that must be slayed. The way I dealt with rejection and the way many people who have succeeded in life would encourage us to say that with rejection, you must understand that people are not saying no to you. They're not rejecting you. They may say no to your service. So whenever I knocked on the door and somebody says, listen, I'm not interested in what you got to offer, I understood they were not rejecting me as a person. They were saying no to what I was offering them. So I separated myself from the product I was selling. Understand this, my friend, that nobody, I think Eleanor Roosevelt said it, or Mahatma Gandhi first said it, and then was re-said by Eleanor Roosevelt when she said, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. Do not give anybody the permission to make you feel rejected, to make you feel inferior. Overcome that by understanding that nobody is rejecting you. They may reject your offer that helped me. Use that in your life. I know it'll work for you. The third inner demon is the demon of the fear of what other people think of me. The fear of what other people think of me. So often in life, we are so afraid of what people think of us. They're going to laugh at me. They're going to mock me if I call them selling my product or offering my service. If I try to sell them something, they're going to think ill of me. They're going to think too little of me. It is a fear. It's a terrible fear, the fear of what other people think of me. We are so consumed by what others say that we don't take the shot. I remember I was talking to a young man at this company I was working with. I was their mentor, their business coach, teaching them sales. And so during the one-on-one session, this young man said to me, "Hey, Melvin, I've got a little bit of a problem. It's not really related to sales, but you were talking about rejection and you were talking about the fear of what other people think of me." And he said, "Here's my problem." He said, "There's a girl that works next to me in the next office." He said, "I really like her. And I really, really want to ask her out, but I don't know why I can't ask her out." He says, "What do I do?" I said to him, "Listen, this may surprise you. This has more to do with business and your sales than you realize." I said to him, "My friend, you are suffering with the fear of rejection and the fear of what other people think of you." And I said to him, "Isn't it the case that you are afraid that she's going to say no, that she'll reject you, and then you are afraid that she will tell her friends and then they will start laughing out at you, thinking, 'Who are you, this guy trying to get that girl?'" And he's like, "This is exactly what I feel." He said, "I didn't know how to connect it between my personal life and my professional life." I said to him, "My friend, understand this thing. You need to overcome this in your personal life, and then automatically you will overcome it in your professional life." And so the fear of what other people think of me and the fear of rejection comes together, and comes together and brings what is called reluctance. We are afraid to pick up the phone to speak to a potential client. We are afraid, like in this guy's case, he was afraid to ask the girl out for coffee, afraid to text her, afraid to call her, because he was reluctant. And this reluctance was killing his sales and the possibility of having coffee with this girl that he really liked. So guess what he did? We got him to overcome the fear of rejection, to overcome the fear of what other people think of me, and dealt with the issue of call reluctance. Guess what he did? You guessed it. He called her and they had coffee and they dated. And so they have a wonderful relationship at this moment because he overcame call reluctance. He overcame the fear of what other people think of me. He overcame the fear of rejection. He overcame the fear of failure. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of what other people think of me, they all come together to form call reluctance. We procrastinate, we stop, and we start making excuses. Whether it be your personal life, let's say, ladies, there's a guy in your company or somebody that you really like and you really want to ask him out, but you're afraid. You have the fear of failure. You have the fear of rejection. You have the fear of what other people think of you, and you're afraid to text him and say, "Hey, how about we catch up for coffee?" Here's the thing. You can overcome these things by firstly identifying them. When these demons are identified inside of you, they lose almost 80% of their power. So you choke the life out of these things, these three inner demons that stop us. They are like this mountain of defeat. They are so powerful. They form this huge mountain. And then we start to form excuses. This is what we do. We go, "Well, if I pick up the phone to phone that potential client at 10 o'clock, what if he's having brunch right now? Or if I ask that girl out for coffee, what if she says no? So we make these excuses in our lives. Friends, stop. You can overcome these things which form core reluctance. You can overcome these excuses right now. Number one, by identifying them, they lose 80% of the power. Now, for the 20%, this is how you scale the mountain. This is how you defeat the mountain of defeat. This is how you overpower it. Number one, the first thing you need is the wisdom of God. I call it divine wisdom. You need to seek God, to ask God to give you the wisdom on how you can make the call. Ask God to give you the wisdom on how you can send a message to that person that you like, to have coffee as an example. Or whatever it may be in your life, God gives you wisdom. The Bible says, if anybody lacks wisdom, ask God. He gives it generously. The first thing you need to overcome the mountain of defeat in your life is divine wisdom. The second thing you need is courage. Courage is lacking today in the lives of so many people. What is courage? Well, let me put it to you like this. Courage, firstly, is you acknowledging the reality of your weakness and inadequacies. It's okay to say, I am weak. It's okay to acknowledge the things you don't have. And then, after you've acknowledged it, you say, but I turn my eyes towards Jesus. In my weakness, He is strong. In my inadequacies, He is adequate. He comes into my life and takes the weakness and makes it strong. So what we are doing is this. When you acknowledge your weakness, when you acknowledge your inadequacies, what you are simply saying is this: I know I cannot do it in my strength. I know I cannot do it in my abilities. I know I can't do it with my intellect, but I know the one who can do it through me. It is Jesus who comes into your life, into that weakness, into the area of your inadequacies and makes you adequate. He makes you strong. So my friend, courage is you acknowledging your weakness. It's you acknowledging your inadequacies, but turning your eyes to Jesus and saying, God, with you, I can do all things. Make me adequate. Make me strong. So your reliance is not on your own understanding. It's not on your own genius. It is on Jesus. And the third thing is boldness. Boldness is faith in action. Boldness is the one that says, I need the wisdom of God. Lord, thank you for giving me wisdom. I need the strength of God. Father, give me courage to stand in the strength of Jesus. And boldness is faith in action, where you are walking, where you are moving, where you are taking risk, where you have great expectation. You are doing something. Faith without works is dead. Faith, in other words, is boldness. You stepping forth and stepping out. Faith is not blind. It is the boldness of you taking a chance, taking the risk in obedience with great expectation in your heart. Friend, wisdom, courage, and boldness By the way, these three things are lacking in our leaders today, whether it be the political leaders, whether it be church leaders. Some people have wisdom and they stop there. I encourage them, no, take the wisdom of God, but also be courageous. Be a person filled with courage. But don't stop there. Get the third thing, be bold. Step out and do it. Step out and do something. Wisdom, courage, and boldness come together to form the inner strength within you that defeats the Goliaths in your life. It conquers the mountains of defeat. It conquers the spirit of fear. It conquers the spirits, these three spirits, the fear, the spirit of rejection, and the spirit of the fear of what other people think of me. These three things form a mountain, and the wisdom, courage, and boldness form in you the giant of God that slays these mountains and slays these things. Think about that today, my friend. Can you relate? Can you connect with these things? I know I certainly can. When I started out in the world of sales, I was a hopeless failure. I started out in Auckland, New Zealand, going door to door selling house alarms. I couldn't pay my rent. The boarding house where I was staying at, they kicked me out. Thank God, the owner of the company where I was working, he said, hey, if you can sleep on the company floors, sleep there. And I had free accommodation. I'd wake up in the morning, have a glass of water, dried bread, and I'd hit the street door knocking. And I worked, but I didn't know how to sell because I'd go out and these three fears would grip me. I didn't know the other parts of wisdom and courage and boldness. But one day a miracle happened, you see, that changed my entire life. I went out door knocking with my alarm in my case. I found myself in Auckland, New Zealand at a public library, and something's telling me to go into this library. I go into the library and something's telling me, look at the audiobook section. I find a cassette tape with a man with a very interesting name, Zig Ziglar. And it cost $2 to rent the tape. Now, you know, $2 is a lot of money when you don't have one. Thank God I had $2. That was going to be lunch, but I decided to rent the tape. I played the tape, and from the time he opened his mouth till the end, I had tears rolling down my face because I'd never heard anybody speak like this man. He said this thing to me which so dramatically changed me. He said, I believe in you. And I decided to trust this man. He said, I wish I could put my arms around you, look you in your eye and say to you that you can do it because I believe you can. I believed him. I trusted him. And then he started to speak about business and then Jesus. And I wasn't a Christian at the time. And he came to the end of the tape and he said, and I'll see you at the top. Well, I thought he meant heaven. I said, one day, Mr. Ziglar, I'm going to see you in heaven. I didn't know if he was still alive or anything. At the time, I knew nothing about him. But I decided to trust this man. So I rented that tape and I played that tape every day. Before every sales call, I've listened to that thing 3, 4, 5 times, 16 times in a week even. And from a struggling salesperson, a top salesperson, became pretty successful, had my own dealership within 18 months of the company. And then I remember when I was listening to the tape, I said to that tape, one day, Mr. Ziglar, I'm going to stand on the same stage you are and I'm going to speak. I didn't have a clue who he was. 7 years later, I came to Dallas, Texas to a seminar. And some people heard me share this testimony and they said, you need to get onto the platform. So I went on and I shared this testimony and Zig Ziglar was in the audience. As I came down the platform, his vice president came up to me, put his arms around me and said, young man, you need to work with me. So I got trained as a Zig Ziglar speaker, trainer, and then the rest is history, as they say. Friends, something happens to you when you overcome the mountain of defeat. Something happens supernaturally you start to connect. Supernaturally, doors open. Supernaturally, you find yourself in places that you are supposed to be. This is the miraculous power of God at work in your life when you choose to overcome the mountain of defeat in your life. Hey, this is your friend Melvin Puller, just encouraging you today, my precious friend. God is for you. Trust with all your heart. Put your trust in Jesus. Turn your eyes to Jesus. He becomes your wisdom. He becomes your strength. And He becomes the boldness inside of you. And then you too can crush the mountains of defeat. And I will see you at the top.